What's up, guys? Arash Rahbar here with my boy Nicky Rizzle, back for another Q&A. I must say that some of your questions are awesome, great questions, questions I would ask myself in my beginning years or as an amateur. A lot of you are competing, a lot of you aren't. Doesn't matter. I get questions from men, women, children, young, old, competitors, non-competitors. They're all welcome. And I have to say, some of your questions are absolutely ridiculous. I don't know what you guys are thinking, but I get some weird questions. Not only do I get some really weird questions, but I also get a lot of questions where I feel like you guys aren't putting in effort. If you took 2 seconds to Google something or learn a little bit, you'll get the questions answered. And I'm not saying to not ask me. I'm always here to help you guys. But if you're serious about it, you wouldn't just be asking questions on Instagram. You'd be doing a lot of research. So I did tons and tons of research. And it was much harder when I was younger because we didn't have Instagram, we didn't have YouTube, and the internet was there, but it didn't have as much information as it did today. So I had to go digging for information. So if you guys really care about whatever it is in life, but in this situation, training and dieting and building muscle and getting leader, you're gonna put in the work, you're gonna do the research, you're gonna read. I'm here to help you guys, but if it means a lot to you, you're gonna figure things out, no matter if I give you a good answer or a bad answer. So I'm gonna have Nick run off some questions, some of the popular questions or some of those that we thought were good, and I'm gonna answer them. But one question, no matter, anytime I say I'm doing a Q&A, I get about 3 to 10 people asking about sex. Is it good or bad? Is having sex bad for gaining muscle? Can I have sex after I train? How many times a day should I have sex? Or can I have sex? How many times a week can I have sex in prep? All right, I'll answer that as scientifically as I can, but let me just say, if your junk is working and there's another human being, man or woman, to each their own, willing to have sex with you, go for it. Because if you don't, you'll regret it in the future. Sex is a beautiful thing. It's very enjoyable when you do it with the right person, as long as it's a human being, please. But, sex will take a lot of energy from you, and it will lower your testosterone for the time being, not for the next 2-3 days. Do you want to be having sex or having an orgasm right before a big workout? No. I mean, I remember the first time that sex came up as far as performance was for us in high school. We played football, and our coach would tell us, don't go out the night before games and don't, have an orgasm. Either have sex or do it yourself. So don't expend that energy. Would I go and do it right before a big workout? No. But would I refrain from doing it on a daily basis, afraid of not making gains? Absolutely not. If you guys are eating and you're sleeping and you're healthy, you're good to go. So have as much sex as you can while the shit still works. Nick, you ready?
Ready.
What's the first question we got?
Best ways to build back thickness, not just lats and lower back, but overall.
Okay, well, the lats are the big muscle, the majority of the back. So to build lat thickness, of course I could go through a slew of exercises, but what's more important, I don't care what you do, I care how you do it. So to build the back, it's behind you, right? So for a lot of people, it's very difficult to contract their back and to really get a good mind-muscle connection, maybe because it's behind us, whatever the case may be. It's a big muscle, and when you pull the arm, you're using the arm, the delts, the traps, so it's very easy. There's a lot of muscles that can get in the way of contracting the lat. I see a lot of people not really using their lats, but using their traps and their arms. A great example is the bent over T-bar, where guys will load up plates in the corner of a gym and do this. And it's all arm movement. They're really not contracting their back. The best piece of advice I could give you for back is try lifting your shoulders up, rolling them back, opening your arms out, and dropping your shoulders. First thing, if you do this correctly, you feel is your lower lats. They contract. So the shoulder and the lat is related. If you're sitting here like this, the shoulder's rolled forward, the lat is pulled, it's weakened, and it's not active. You want it to be back, and you want to contract your lats. Before you do a one-arm row, if you do this, your lat's going to contract before you even pick up the weight. So my best advice is to make sure you're contracting the muscle that you're training. And well, duh, of course that goes without saying, Arash. Why, it's so obvious, but People don't do that. You guys are going on loading plates and just yanking weight like this, shoulder forward, bent over, hunched over the pad, and just pulling, using a lot of buys, a lot of shoulders, and a lot of traps. You know, you guys really, really sore in your lower back and your lats, not upper back. The upper back, you're gonna have your traps there, you're gonna have your rear delts there, so it's really hard to distinguish. So lower the weight, take a step back, park your ego aside, and really pay attention on your form, and do the shoulder and lat thing that I told you guys. Take the traps and the biceps out of the equation and really focus on the lats. I promise you, you'll get a better pump and you'll feel the soreness. Next, Nick.
Next we got, what's your take on taking creatine while cutting / during show prep?
I love creatine. Creatine's probably one of the best supplements out there. It's one of the supplements that's been around the longest and that has the most amount of research and that's been proven to actually be a performance enhancing supplement. So what does creatine do? You take creatine, after a while it builds up in your system. You take it every day, by the way, not periodically, not here and there. If you guys have a pre-workout and it has 2 or 3 grams of creatine and you're using it a few days a week, that doesn't count. You gotta take consistent 5 grams every day. I like it after training because you're sensitive to insulin spike. Anaerobic activity makes you insulin sensitive, so you have carbohydrates after you work out, spike your insulin, take the creatine, better absorption. That being said, it makes you stronger. By side effects, some people do get water retention. Creatine does retain water, but in a good way. It retains water intracellularly in the muscle. So if you're taking creatine and you're very, very bloated from it, I would cut it out 2 to 3 weeks before a show. Creatine, when you stop it, it'll stay in your body for 2 weeks. So if you want to be safe, do it 3 weeks. But if you're coming into a contest and you're taking creatine and you look dry subcutaneously and you're not bloated, it's helping you keep the muscles full and plump, so keep it in. Majority of the time, personally, I take it out because I can't afford to have any extra water retention in or out of the muscle because I need to lose a lot of weight to make weight. But if I'm looking good and staying dry and my weight's low, I would keep it in. So it all depends on how you look and how it's reacting to you and your body. I've seen people gain 5-10 pounds off of creatine, and I've seen people not gain any. So hope that answers your question.
Does eating too much sugar raise my body fat percentage, even if I'm in a caloric deficit?
That's an interesting question, and you're gonna get a lot of different answers. I'm assuming you already did, that's why you're asking me. So yeah, sugar's not good, right? Sugar can make you fat. You know, if you have 50 grams of carbs from sugar versus 50 grams of carbs from a slow digesting complex carbohydrate like a sweet potato, what's gonna make you fat? Technically, the sugar is gonna spike your insulin and you're more inclined to gain fat. That being said, a lot of new studies are showing, if it fits your macros, for instance, which is similar to Weight Watchers, that calories in, calories burned. It doesn't matter when you eat or what you eat. If you're eating X amount of calories, doesn't matter where it comes from, the sources, as long as the macronutrients are the same. You know, a lot of bodybuilders won't agree with that. I think different foods have different hormonal responses. I think you can get lean and lose weight eating fast food and eating candy bars and sugar as long as you're burning more than you're eating. So if you were gonna eat candy bars to diet, it wouldn't be fun because they're so calorically dense that you would meet your calorie intake for the day with just like 2 candy bars, if that, and you'd be starving the rest of the day. It's not only difficult, but it's not healthy. You're not getting micronutrients. And also, you know, look, it has different hormonal responses. So people that argue this all the time, my first question is, okay, maybe you can lose weight, but are you gonna be the best you possibly can be? And the answer to that question for me is no. I'm not gonna be training optimally. I mean, my blood sugar is gonna be all over the place. I'm not gonna be feeling good. I'm gonna be low on energy. And I don't think that if I'm in a low caloric deficit and my body fat's very low and I'm training very hard, I don't think I'm gonna get fat if I take out 100 grams of carbs from sweet potato and I add in from Gatorade, let's say, which is dextrose, sugar. I don't think I'm gonna get fat, but I think it's gonna affect me in a lot of different ways throughout my diet or prep. So I personally would stay away from sugar in a prep. You know, it doesn't have a place for me. If you're doing it post-workout just to replenish your glycogen stores, that's totally fine. But sometimes when we're dieting so hard and we're getting a limited amount of carbohydrates, we're really picky with what carbohydrate we're gonna eat. If I'm allowed to only have 50 grams of carbs a day, that's very low. Would I want it through a drink or would I wanna sit down and eat it through a food? Right now, you guys might say it doesn't matter, but when you're really lean and you're starving all the time, you're gonna pick the food over the drink anytime. And liquids go right through you, so they're not gonna leave you as satiated as solid foods will. Plus, when you eat solid food, you burn more calories because it'll burn on average 100, 150 calories just to break down the food, whereas a liquid will not burn those calories.
Best food for cutting of muscle. So I just assume a food that is a staple in your diet while you're cutting.
No such thing. Kind of goes back to the other question. It's all about calories, right? So the best foods I would have to say are natural, wholesome foods that came from the earth that are not processed and touched by man. But that being said, what's the most important thing when losing weight, lowering body fat, dieting is the calories. That's more important than what you're eating. Is what you're eating important? Absolutely. Health-wise, energy, like I just said in the other question, but your calories is what's important. You can't just eat white fish and chicken, 5,000 calories. Let's say you're burning 2,500 calories, you have to be below 2,500, right? A deficit. So you could take the healthiest food on earth, the lowest calorie food on earth, but if you're having too much of it, 3,000 calories, when you're supposed to be having under 2,500, you're gonna get fat. You know, so it's not about what food. That being said, real quick for the person that asked that question, I'll just go and say proteins. I love eggs, whole eggs, egg whites. I love wild caught fish. Right now, I currently have Bronzino from NutriChef. Chicken breast. I love chicken breast, but you guys got to be careful with chicken. Try to get organic. Chicken's got a lot of stuff pumped in it, saline and not such great hormones and antibiotics. I love red meat. I try to get grass fed. Sources of protein besides whey isolate, that's it, the solid foods. My sixth meal or seventh meal a day is always a whey isolate shake. It's a nice treat for me. And my carbs are cream of rice, white rice, sweet potatoes, sometimes oatmeal. I like cream of rice and white rice because even though they have less nutritional benefits than a sweet potato or oatmeal, they're easier on my stomach because they don't have high in fiber. So it really depends on what you digest the best. Next.
Can I build a men's physique bodybuilding with martial arts 3 times a week? Is this all enough?
Bodybuilding with martial art. Well, you're not bodybuilding. Bodybuilding is training to build the body with weights. So it's a confusing question, but no, you're not bodybuilding if you're doing martial arts. And no, I don't think you can build a men's physique body doing martial arts. That being said, I love martial arts. I trained martial arts 15 years of my life. Guys and men and women that have amazing physiques doing gymnastics or martial arts or CrossFit are very genetically superior. So you can look like a little bodybuilder being a gymnast or doing martial arts if you have great genetics. But that being said, what you say men's physique, even though you're not trying to do bodybuilding, every single muscle has to be developed. Literally from the forearm, the bicep, the tricep, the shoulders, the front, side, back of the shoulder, the rear delt, the traps, the mid back, the lower back, the chest, the abs. So the likelihood of you developing those muscles with just martial arts 3 days a week are very unlikely. And also, if that's the only activity you're doing, you're gonna have a hard time getting in shape and getting lower in body fat. So ideally, if you're very, very serious about competing, I would get in the weight room, do the martial arts also. I think it's really, really good, keeps you healthy, keeps mobility, flexibility, and will strengthen areas of the body that you won't strengthen in the weight room. So to answer that question, I would say no, unless you're a absolute genetic freak.
So we have, what is the best for mass gaining? Heavy weight with 10 to 12 reps or low weight with 15 to 20 reps?
The best thing for mass gaining is heavy explosive movements and a calorie surplus. You can bench 500 pounds, deadlift 1,000 and squat 1,000, and you will not get bigger if you're not eating enough. So food is the most important thing. That being said, I think he said 10 to 12 or 15 to 20. 15 to 20 is not strength training. That's endurance training. That's stamina training. So you want to keep your reps low. I would even go as low as 4 to 6 reps for some movements. The rest 8 to 10 or 8 to 12. You know, lightweight, high reps is never ideal for bodybuilding because what happens is after your first few years of training, you're only going to grow when there's a new stimulus. if you introduce a new angle, a new exercise, a new amount of volume, like let's say you do something that's not that heavy, but you do it for a ton of reps, or a new weight, a new PR. These are the things that are gonna create new stimulus, and the way you know it is you get sore. So your body really only gets sore when it does something that is different. It's a shock. You don't get sore walking around. You don't get sore if you climb, 20 flights of stairs. People do this on a daily basis in their life. They don't get sore from it because their body's adapted to it. So you need to introduce a new stimulus, and you need to be eating and sleeping in order to get in mass. But to introduce a new stimulus, to build strength and apply that strength to volume. If you're a beginner, you want to get stronger as fast as possible, and then you want to build the strength to volume. So you'd want to be doing 4 to 6, 5 times 5, 5 sets of 5, or just heavier compound movements to build the strength, however long it takes you, several weeks, several months, maybe several years, and then apply that to a higher volume, hypertrophy, which would be 10 to 12. So I wouldn't go on the 15 to 20, but someone that's asking this question, 99% of the time, you're not eating enough. So increase the calories.
My quads are big, but my biceps seem to be lacking. What should I do to balance it out?
I have no idea where the correlation there is, why you're mentioning your quads are big. That's awesome, good for you. What should you do? Put more focus on your arms. I really don't know, because is this guy fat? Is he lean? Is he constantly in a caloric deficit? I'm assuming he's short. I mean, most of the shorter guys have big quads. I'm not sure what he means by that question. There isn't something you should do to make your arms big because your quads are big, You should just focus more on your arms. You obviously are genetically inclined to have bigger legs and not such big arms, but maybe you need to get a better mind-muscle connection, focus on the contraction, not just schlep weight around. You shouldn't be training 2-3 times a week, a small body part. Can you hit arms twice? You can, but I don't recommend you annihilating your arms. The thing is, you can train every muscle every single day. Gymnasts do, and every athlete in the world does. But you can't annihilate a given muscle. You can't go in the gym and train legs for 3 hours like most bodybuilders and do that every day. So if you're gonna try to train a muscle more often, you have to hit it and let it rest, not do too much volume. Or you can train very, very high intensity like I do and like Dorian Yates used to, and train everything once a week or once every 5 days. So if you've been doing arms once a week for the past few years, I would try hitting them twice, maybe twice in 8 days. Give it enough rest, but not so much volume. Maybe hit it really, really hard and let it rest. You gotta understand your arms are the smallest muscles, right? Besides forearms and calves and rear delts, but they get used so much. They get used when you're pressing. Your triceps get used when you're pressing for chest and shoulders. Your biceps get used when you're pulling for back. So they're constantly getting taxed. So keep that in mind. And you gotta just try a different approach. But your quad size has nothing to do with your arm size.
Is hitting every muscle 2 times per week optimal? I assume for gaining size.
Similar, same question, kind of, I answered it. Depends on the person, twice a week. It's relative to how much you're eating and how much you're resting. If your food intake is 100% and you're sleeping 8 to 10 hours every single day consistently, you guys have to understand, some of you have a great day where you eat 5-6 meals and you sleep 8 hours, and then 4 days you don't do that. You're not gonna be a good bodybuilder. You're not gonna grow. You have to be like a dog, like I said in one of my motivational videos, and people love that. You have to be consistent like a dog every day, 7 days a week, 4 weeks a month, 365 days a year, all constantly for years and years and years to be your absolute best. So that being said, I personally built my frame on every muscle once a week, and I've tried doing every muscle twice. I personally don't love it, and now I'm kind of in between. I do a 4-day cycle, I take the 5th day off, and I start my week on the 6th day. So technically in 2 weeks, I get 3 workouts in. So I hit each muscle 3 times in 2 weeks. So I'm not really hitting everything twice a week. I hope that makes sense. Could I hit everything twice a week? Yes, but I would pull back on the volume. Again, not annihilating the muscle, because when you really annihilate the muscle, sometimes it'll take 4 or 5 days to get it back, to recover. Sometimes my legs are sore 5 days after training them.
Best exercise to grow chest, best to widen shoulders, best to grow your arms. So I guess just your favorite exercise for putting size on your chest,
Shoulders and arms. This guy cheated. That's like 3 questions, man.
That's 3.
No such thing. There's no best exercise. You know, everyone comes up to the guy in the gym that has the biggest arms or the best chest. You know, for me, guys ask me about my chest and my shoulders. For Arnold, they ask him about his chest. You know, for so-and-so, whatever the case may be. Most of the time, they're just genetically gifted, right? I don't think Arnold's chest was so wide because he did these miraculous exercises. What is there for chest? Different variations of incline, different variations of flat, different variations of decline, flies, cables, and a couple other fancy exercises, but that's pretty much it. We all do the same exercises. So it's not what you do. It's not the best exercise for chest. It's how you do it. So same thing goes for arms, same thing goes for shoulders. I'm not gonna go into each muscle because that was literally like 10 questions in one, but I will tell you for chest. When you guys are trying to train a muscle, you have to think what muscles are getting in the way. You all know what an isolation is, right? Isolating a given muscle, okay. It's awesome, great idea, it's impossible. We wanna do our best to isolate, but it's impossible. If I bend over and pick up a pencil, 30 muscles will fire. I can't isolate. That's not the way the human body works. So I do my best to put my arm on a preacher so I don't swing and I don't use too much of my delt. But just doing this right now, right here, my forearm fired with my bicep and my front delt. And shit, my lat's probably firing. My left small toe is probably firing. We use a lot of muscles. So you have to ask yourself, what muscles am I using? What muscles are getting in the way when I'm training chest, right? I'm gonna answer the chest question because a lot of people have lagging chest and lagging upper chest. Well, this huge muscle right here, the shoulder, this huge muscle is getting in the way. So you guys wanna roll them back and down. Like I said about the back training, same thing. Get the front delt out of the equation. Look at the difference between this, all the way forward, pushing out, and this. What is that? What is that, Nick, 2 inches? So if I tuck my shoulders back and then press, my chest is forward and my delt is back. But if I extend forward, my delt is forward. So is it gonna make me weaker? Absolutely. But am I gonna really be training chest and not just muscling the weight up? Yes. There's a huge difference between bodybuilding and weightlifting. Weightlifting is lifting a weight from point A to point B. Bodybuilding is lifting that weight in order to stimulate a given muscle. If the bodybuilding gods came down and said, Arash, from now on, you're only gonna be able to lift 20 pounds across the board on every exercise, but your muscles are gonna grow, they're gonna develop, and you're not gonna get injured. I would love that. Maybe I wouldn't feel, strong or no ego lifting, but the point is I'm gonna grow and not get injured. Now, the reason I say that is because bodybuilding, we all do lift heavier weight because we know that heavy weight is a new stimulus and it does grow dense muscle tissue. But the key is we're not just trying to lift as much weight as possible. A lot of bodybuilders will lose focus and they'll ego lift and show off for social media. That's not necessarily bodybuilding. A lot of times they're gonna be using too much of the other muscles and getting prone to being injured. So it kind of defeats the purpose. What's the point of going heavy if I'm gonna use more of my delt than my chest? So now I'm not really just training chest. I'm muscling the weight up and I can possibly get injured. So keep that into consideration of how you're doing the weight and don't lift because someone's watching or because of Instagram or because of your ego. Next question. That's all we have. So I have a ton because we just put it on my story live. So I'm gonna go through how do you see your future? I love bodybuilding. I love the sport. I don't have anything in my mind as far as giving up or quitting now. I feel like I haven't. My yes is bet to come. My best is yet to come. I feel like I've done good since 2016. The classic physique division started, but I've really been off the past 2 years. I've had some health issues and some injuries. So I think that my future is going to be much brighter than the past year has been for me. And I'm going to bring a much better package, a much better physique. I feel like I haven't brought my best. If you skip cardio for 2 months, but you do your training sessions intense 5 times a week, where's the question? That was like a statement. It depends. I don't know. Are you fat? Are you skinny? How many calories are you taking in? Ideally, you don't want any cardio. You guys have to understand, do you need to do cardio to get shredded to the bone? Probably. Do you need to be in a caloric deficit and not eat much? Probably. But you want to eat as much as humanly possible without getting fat. You want to do as little amount of activity while getting lean. So if you can get ripped and stay in shape with zero cardio, why would you do it? Besides the health benefits of your heart and stuff. So if you're fat and you haven't done cardio for 2 weeks, start. What else do we have here? Again, I'm skipping over a lot of them because they're ridiculous. Oh, look, we got 2 more sex questions in a row. What is your favorite muscle to train? That's a tough one. I don't think I have one. I feel like the favorite muscle to train changes year to year over 25 years. Literally, legs have always been a love-hate relationship, but when I'm feeling good and I don't have any aches and pains, I love training legs. I feel like whenever you're feeling good and you're strong and pain-free, you love that given muscle. So I've literally gone from shoulders to chest to arms to back being my favorite. Currently, none of them are my favorite because I have aches and pains everywhere, but I would say what I look forward to the most is legs and back because I know that's what I want to improve the most on, and I put a lot of thought in those workouts with angles and contraction and everything that I was teaching you guys earlier in this video. How many times a week can we have sex without losing muscle? I told you, I'm telling you. There's please more Nikki Rizzle videos. They are amazing. They're giving you a shout out, Nikki. How often do you recommend a clean refeed? Awesome question. So a cheat, right? A cheat meal or a refeed, what the hell is it? Like, who came up with that? A cheat meal is not because you're doing a good job, here's a break or to enjoy yourself. A cheat meal really has a purpose. When you're in a caloric deficit and you're dieting really, really hard, if you're actually lean and you're at very, very low calories, what happens is your metabolism slows down. Why? Because your body doesn't know you're doing a freaking bodybuilding show. Your body thinks it's starving. It thinks you're in the forest, you're in the desert, because we're all cavemen and women, and it thinks you're dying. So what it does to prolong your life, this is how smart our body is, it slows the metabolism down. Think about how smart that is. That's how people that are out in the wilderness for days and months and weeks that they survive, that's how. The metabolism slows. If your metabolism is fast and you're not eating, you literally waste away and die. So the whole purpose of a cheat meal or a refeed is to tell your body, here's a surplus of calories, relax, we're not dying. The metabolism jump starts. Not only will it give you a pump and make you fuller and all that stuff, but it'll make you leaner. So how often is it recommended to have a clean refeed? Depends on you, depends on how hard you're dieting, how much cardio and training you're doing, and how lean you are. That being said, if you're really lean and you're in a really big caloric deficit, usually 3 to 4 days of very low carbohydrate fuel source is when you start having protein breakdown in your blood and urine. So I really recommend and I really like 3 or 4 days of low carb, lower calorie, and then 1 high and repeat. So I recommend that, and I think that's a good mix. But we're not talking about pizza and burgers every 3-4 days, Separate cardio is good, or cardio after weight training is effective? So cardio after weight training is very effective because assuming you trained hard, it's almost like doing fasted cardio. Not exactly, but almost, because if you're on a low calorie diet, you've basically burned off your fuel and now you're doing cardio on a semi-empty stomach. But ideally, for the sake of not losing body fat, but for the sake of retaining muscle and not being in danger of losing muscle, intense cardio, not just slow, steady state, but intense cardio should be done 4 to 6 hours away from training, especially if you guys are doing HIIT. Now, if you're dieting really, really hard and you go in the gym and you train for an hour and a half and then you do another 30 to 60 minutes after training, that's really prolonging it, that's really pushing it, and you are more likely to burn a little bit of muscle. So I would recommend, if you guys are gonna do it after you train, to have a couple scoops of branched chain amino acids and a couple scoops of glutamine. We're gonna do 1 or 2 more. Happy New Year, thank you. It was Persian New Year this week, so thank you very much. How can I contact you for coaching? How can you be my coach? Guys, my email is in my bio on my Instagram. It's coaching@arashrahbar.com. Just send me an email. I only coach in English. I don't read other languages. I keep it really, really simple. I don't coach through my DM. A lot of people DM me on a daily basis. Just look on my profile. There's a link you can click to my email. All right, so last two questions, and we're gonna call it a wrap. So please tell me about salt intake for an amateur athlete. I get a lot of questions for amateur athlete. It doesn't make a difference if you're an amateur or professional. Salt intake is very, very important. If you guys ever try to do a 0 sodium in your diet, it's impossible, first of all, because if you put 0 added sodium, that's the only thing you can do. 0 added. Don't add any salt. But there's sodium in almost every food. Eggs naturally have sodium in them, for example. All your chicken and steak is gonna have sodium in it. So my point is if you take your sodium out as best as you can, you won't be able to walk. You'll have no energy, no pumps, and you'll be very sluggish and tired. Sodium is a huge part of keeping the muscles full, and I'm a huge fan of Himalayan pink salt. It has a lot of great health benefits. Google it. But I would say when you're dieting for a show, keep your sodium relatively high, especially if your carbohydrates are low. The reason a lot of you guys get such crazy pumps after your cheat meals is because most cheat meals, dirty food, whatever you're having, has the amount of sodium in that one meal that you have in like 2 days of dieting. So one of the best pre-workouts is a kosher pickle because it's so high in salt. So I wouldn't mess with sodium. Keep the sodium high throughout your prep. When your carbs are low, I think it's very important to keep them high to keep the fullness in your muscles, vascularity. And that being said, sodium load. Some guys like to sodium load before shows. What sodium load is increasing sodium and increasing water. What happens is people think that would bloat them, but it does exactly the opposite. Our body is always trying to maintain homeostasis. If you don't know what it is, Google it. It's the natural neutral point of the human body. So we have a pump in our body for potassium and a pump for sodium. If either one is too high, it can make us sick, could even kill you. So when you increase sodium and water intake, your sodium pump will work overload to release the sodium out of the body, and you go into a natural diuretic effect called diuresis, and you will actually lose more water by having more sodium, and it'll make you drier. So if you're not very experienced or well read on it, I wouldn't mess with your sodium. Pulling sodium can get you drier for a show, but it also can make you very flat. And if you do it for too long of a time, you can have the opposite effect. A hormone called aldosterone will raise in your body and you'll end up retaining water. So keep that in mind. Last question, how can I make my abs six-pack? So we have a lot of, language barriers, but I get the question. So your abs are a muscle. They're very different than other muscles because they're not like round insertion muscle bellies. They're a sheath of muscle. Understanding the human body, what the muscles are for, what they do is the first step of bodybuilding. The abs are here to protect the organs, right? They're not here to look good on the beach. Now, the abs, you build your abs by training them and doing exercise, leg raises, crunches, some weighted stuff. But that's not going to make them necessarily have a six pack. We all have a six pack underneath the fat. What you need to do is diet. You need to get your body fat low. You're not going to have high body fat and all of a sudden get a six pack. Some guys have a shorter abdomen, really, really thick abs, and they pop out all year round. Some guys have a six pack all year round. What does that mean? You can see the muscles, but they're not striated, they're not shredded, they're not really, really lean. So no matter how big your abs are, how much they protrude, you're not going to have a very, very defined, detailed, tight midsection until you lose the belly fat. And you can't target fat loss. Girls will tell me, I want to have more toned abs and more toned arms and back, but I don't want to lose my butt. Well, we're going to decrease body fat to show definition and tone. We can't pinpoint where we're going to decrease it. Body fat's going to go pretty much everywhere. A lot of people have stubborn areas like their love handles, their lower back, their glutes and hamstrings. But that being said, that's more genetic than in our control. You can't just go to the gym, train your arm, have a ripped arm, but have a double chin. I mean, that'd be awesome if you could do that. I don't know who'd want a ripped arm and a double chin, but I hope that answers the question. You guys should train your abs, have a strong core, not only for the detail in your abdomen, but also for stability in other training, and you don't hurt, so you won't hurt your back or hurt yourself elsewhere. But when you do diet and you do your cardio, the six-pack will come out. I hope that answered all your questions, guys. We'll do another one of these videos soon. I think, Nick, the next video we'll do will probably be in the gym or maybe some day in the life stuff, but I think we're due for another training video. So till next time, thanks for watching.